What's up, everybody? I'm Awesome Rivers. I'm here at Ballislife, here to watch some of my mixtapes and go through it. This will be interesting to go back and see some of the high school stuff, man. Let's get to it.
Here we go. All right, so this first one is from City of Palms, is where first time really Ballislife, the mixtape really got put onto you. Your first time when I feel like when you had media coverage and
Yeah. That was the tournament at the time. Like, City of Palms was where all the real hoopers played in. It's a big time tournament, man. Like, you knew you were gonna get some bump versus the top competition in the country. Everybody came in for that. And it used to be at this little high school in Fort Myers, and it was fire. Good environment, real basketball fans, good hooper gym, wall right behind the basket, you know what I mean? Like, one of those things, so. Yeah, it was.
they always gave you like prime time games because they knew how packed it was.
Yeah, I'd get the night games. I always had the 7 o'clock, 7:30 games, which was fun because it would get you'd come in at like 5 something before the game, and it was already packed in there. That was a good feeling.
And do you remember how many points you dropped the first game you had there?
No, I
It
don't.
was the first. Actually, it was this game. If you had to guess, how many would you guess?
Who's this verse? This is verse. I don't know. I don't know how much
This game was 45.
45.
Yeah.
Want to give a special shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. Prize Picks is the largest and easiest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's super easy to use and by far the most exciting way to get in on all the action while watching some of your favorite sports teams and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks has something for every sports fan. And now esports too, from basketball and soccer to League of Legends, Call of Duty, Apex Legends, and Valorant and more. You could pick LeBron, Caitlin Clark, Connor McDavid, and your favorite esports players all in the same entry. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, Prize Picks will have your back and not count that as a loss. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a huge selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. This week on Prize Picks, I'm selecting Kyrie Irving, less than 24 points. Paul George, less than 24.5 points. Derrick Jones Jr., less than 10 points. Go to prizepicks.com and use code LIFE for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com and promo code LIFE to get a first deposit match up to $100. Use the link in the description to go to Prize Picks and use code LIFE. And thanks to Prize Picks for sponsoring this video.
That was your first time being filmed by Ballislife.
Yeah, back then, only like the most valid players in high school got mixtapes. You'd only get a mixtape if you were a top tier player. So you knew anytime you were watching somebody, they were, top level prospect in the country. It was a big deal to get a Ballislife mixtape, you know what I mean? Mixtape era was at its peak, in my opinion. We followed those of like the OJ Mayos and Derrick Roses, Brendan Jennings, these are the guys that we kind of watched. And then I thought peak was around my time, a couple years before and after me, with the John Walls and some of the guys like that, Kill Cars after a couple other people too as well. Wiggins, there's some sick high school players, but yeah.
And did you notice a difference before you got a mixtape and after you got a mixtape?
People would go to YouTube and watch your clips. It was like a whole thing. I remember just like my junior, senior year when we would play teams, people would be excited to go to the games because y'all were following my games. So it would be on the internet. So they knew they were going to be in a part of a mixtape, even though it was on the trailing end of them. They just wanted to be in it. It became like a big thing. So it created more awareness. My games in my AAU circuit would get more packed and everything like that. So it just made it more fun. It made the energy in the building always exciting. It was easy for me to get up for games because I had so much kind of motion going around at that time. It was a lot of fun. High school got mixtapes. You'd only get a mixtape if you were a top tier player. So you knew anytime you were watching somebody, they were, top level prospect in the country. It was a big deal to get a Ballislife mixtape. You know what I mean? Mixtape era was at its peak, in my opinion. You know, we followed those of like the OJ Mayos and Derrick Roses, Brendan Jennings. You know, these are the guys that we kind of watched. And then I thought peak was around my time, a couple years before and after me. You know, with the John Walls and some of the guys like that, Kill Cars after a couple other people too as well. Wiggins. You know, there's some sick high school players. But yeah.
And did you notice a difference before you got a mixtape and after you got a mixtape?
People would go to YouTube and watch your clips. It was like a whole thing. I remember just like my junior, senior year when we would play teams, people would be excited to go to the games because y'all were following my games. So it would be on the internet. So they knew they were going to be a part of a mixtape, even though it was on the trailing end of them. They just wanted to be in it. It became like a big thing. So it created more awareness. My games in my AAU circuit would get more packed and everything like that. So it just made it more fun. It made the energy in the building always exciting. It was easy for me to get up for games because I had so much kind of motion going around at that time. It was a lot of fun.
So this next one is from Elite 24.
Elite 24. Yeah.
You remember this?
Yeah, I remember this, man.
You want to explain what happened?
So this was like the most important part of the Elite 24. The game itself was always just bump, but you know, this was like when you got to compete against the pros and kind of level yourself where you were at. So for me, John Wall was naturally like, he was a couple classes over me. I wanted to play against him. John was so explosive. Me with like no beard is so trippy, bro. I look so strange. I don't know what that is. Look at that. Yeah, no, I caught him with a little cross. I probably caught him off guard, honestly.
You know, he got me later on that night, you know, but people don't know that, so I'm not gonna say no more about it. But
they know now.
LeBron. Oh, that's the clip. He caught me with the hezzy. Look at that. Tough. Man, I can only imagine if we had social media during that time. In some ways, I'm thankful I didn't have it, just because I felt like that would have been maybe too much attention. You know, there was already so much stuff going on that for me, everything that I had worked just enough. I only got like that attention when I'd pull up to a game. You know what I mean? I didn't have to face it at home on my social media where you're just surrounded by that stuff all the time. People coming at you. You know, I look at some of these young players in high school today and how many followers they have in high school and all this. I can only imagine having that if we had Instagram when I played. So it's crazy. It's completely different going viral then versus now, because I don't want to say it's easier to go viral now, but there's so much access. We watch everything. Everything's on camera. Everything's recorded. Everything's on a phone. Every tournament, every AAU. There's a million mixtapes by a million different companies. You know, you got this. Media coverage in general on sports is just doubled, tripled, quadrupled, all the way down to grassroots level. So going viral now might not hit as hard as it did back then, because back then you only went viral if you were one of the heavy hitters. You only would have clips, mixtapes, coverage of you if you were like one of the valid top-ranked guys. So it just meant more. So I just felt like it just wasn't the access wasn't the same. I think that's the biggest difference.
I want to say this was another high-scoring game for you.
Me and my pops call this the what if game. He came to this game and punched on his ass. That dude was like 6'10" too. He was humongous.
You weren't really known as someone that dunked on.
No, I didn't dunk on people like that. That was like my first for real poster on the AAU, on the main circuit, because I used to get people in high school, OD. But I got hurt in the third quarter. I had 32. I had 32 points, like with 6 minutes left in the third. It was going to be like one of my highest scoring games I've had. I was cooking. I sprained my ankle bad. We ended up winning by like 20 still, but that was one of my biggest. I got mad I got hurt that game. I would have probably had 50 something. I was feeling good, springy. I had cut a lob right after that body, shooting the ball good. It was one of those games where I just felt really good. And my pops was there. He couldn't come to a lot of games just with his job and everything. And he lived in Boston, so it being in Springfield, he was able to just jet over. So you know how it is when you're playing in front of your people, like you gotta go crazy. That was a fun game.
I think there's some peach Come hang in here too.
Peach Jam. I never really, I would go crazy at Peach Jam here and there, but I always wanted to dominate Peach Jam more than I did. That was the one tournament I always felt like I didn't have some of my greatest stuff in, but ooh. That right hezzy pull-up, man, that's like the go-to, the hang dribble. I still use that in terms of guys getting their looks. That right hezzy pull-up was quick.
What aspects of your game are you really impressed with from your high school days?
My explosiveness was underrated. I still have the first step. The first step and like the quick, I have everything right like that I'm seeing right now. I'm just like more of a better version of this now. But the explosion vertically, that's the way, I mean, that's how I lasted in the league for 11 years was my damn jab step. Just me being able to defend.
What were some battles that happened that like no one will ever hear about?
Man, some lost files. We had a lot of lost file games when I teamed up with B Knight for like a whole summer. Me and Brandon Knight. People forget Brandon Knight in high school was like.
He was number one.
He was number one for like a long time. Like he was the guy. And injuries took a hold of his career in the NBA. But Brandon was a really good player. Still is a good player. And in high school, he was a class above me. He was number one and I was number one. We were both number one playing with each other on the same team. But for whatever reason, like we didn't get mixtapes together. It's so strange. I always look back at all the mixtapes I made. I'm like, how didn't me and Brandon get?
The fact that I'm just learning about this. Right
that's what I'm saying. Like me and you were on the same team. We used to cut up some people, man. Like there were games where there'd be a 100-point score, and me and Brandon would have like 88 of them or 90 of them. Like like just the whole game going back. And like we had games where we just run them off. So y'all got the Boo Williams, Brad Beal one.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. But there was a couple other ones. I had a game versus KCP at Disney at 55. I went against CP3 All-Stars at 47. It was like PJ Harrison, Reggie Bullock, a couple other pros were on that team as well at 47 that game. So there's a lot of games I can name, honestly. You know what I mean? I was scoring so much. So that's, yeah, I wish they had the B Knight AR series. That would have been dope.
Is there any player, every time you stepped on the court against them, it was just kind of like there was an extra chip on your shoulder?
Yeah, Brad was, you know, the guy in high school that I think our junior year, by our junior year, he was the guy that was always, you know, the other two guard. He was the dude always, you know, you had to come with your A game because he was going to come with his. He was a great player, obviously, as he's turned out to be. So that was a dude in high school. When I knew who I was playing against, we used to get amped up, and those games meant more to both of us. You know what I mean? But just mutual respect. He was just, you know, he was a tactical scorer, still is. So it was fun playing against him, competing against him. He has so much lost footage, bro, like from practice and stuff. We used to talk about that, but I don't know what happened to all that stuff.
Hey, I'm Doc Rivers and I'm watching Austin. Ballislife.com.
Kapongo. Shit, that Kyle Wilcher. Look at AD, bro. He's skinny as hell. I mean, that's still my go-to, man. Getting the shot off is that right heavy pull, cross series. Yeah, that's right to the next play. Man, that shit was so much fun, bro. You out there playing with all the best players in the world, everybody talking trash, competing in the pickup games, comparing against one another, you know, that type of competitive atmosphere. The Hoop Summit, like that game was fire. Being out there in the Nike Hoop Summit, that was a big time game. And then obviously getting to do this, the dunk contest. People forget I was in the dunk contest.
Right, you put on you want to explain the whole?
Yeah, I put on my Pop's Hawks jersey, man. I took it off. I tried to get his McDonald's jersey, but it burnt down actually in one of our houses that burned down. But we still had the Hawks jersey, so I was able to put that on and kind of shout out my old man. Man, look, that's Coach Hurley right there, bro. Hold up, look at this. Look at the eye. Point this out, bro. That is literally Coach Hurley right here, coaching. Now he's a two-time champ for the UConn Huskies.
That's crazy.
He's the man too. I love his energy. This is why I love that tournament. He was constantly playing against people. God damn it, in and out. Huh? I remember that shit. Pull back. He almost dropped.
Was that the game against Ricardo Gathers?
Yes. The football player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. In university, that court used to be so slippery. He tried to get it back too. He wanted it bad. Yeah, man. I actually can still do that stuff. That's just crazy.
That's crazy.
I was messing around the gym a couple of weeks ago, and I pulled that out. I still got it between the legs. That game I got hot. I remember I hit like 5, 6 in a row.
If I hit one, usually they start coming after that.
Bear shirt, nothing on post-game interview in high school was some crazy work. Let's talk about it.
That's when you're feeling yourself?
Yeah, I was in my bag, man. That was fun, man. Wow. Look at that little goatee. I thought I had something going. Jesus.
That was the look back then.
That was the look back then for sure. It's hard to compare now just due to the fact of social media. Obviously, having a mixtape back then, how important it was just due to the fact that you didn't have access on your, YouTube was just kind of a thing and people weren't heavy on, streaming stuff, and there wasn't an app like Instagram or Twitter where you see stuff over and over every day desensitized by like high school highlights because everyone's highlights are on the internet. You didn't have none of that. So to have a mixtape put out of you by a whole different group of people that you didn't really know like that, because we only know y'all from the far in high school until we get to meet y'all a little bit more. But during that process, you're just playing on the circuit, and the next thing you know, you got a video on YouTube and everybody's talking about it. It was just like a thing. You felt really proud to be able to get like a mixtape or a hoop mixtape or a Ballislife mixtape, or you guys have always only really been the two pioneers in that, and obviously they're leveled off now and you guys are still the ones doing your stuff, but those brands were what it was about. Getting one of those tapes meant a lot, so it was cool. And I thought the biggest difference is back then we just played the games, you know what I'm saying? We were just playing, and then I would get mixtapes. I never went into a game knowing you guys were going to be there and be like, I gotta go crazy tonight, Ballislife's gonna be there. That's the difference between back then and now. I just feel like personally, I could care less who was at my games. I was just trying to hoop and win and kill, and then I just got stuff put out of me, and it felt more rewarding that way. Versus now where you already know all this stuff's going down. There's a million cameras at every corner. Every kid wants social media followers because that means revenue and dollars. Now with NIL, kids are businesses and brands in high school. It's just completely different. It's you'd be dumb not to have cameras at your games and pay for them to be at your games now, considering all the money that can be made at the grassroots level. So it's big difference, big difference. I think high schools now are starting to offer social media classes. If we're gonna tap into this full tilt, then we need to prepare our youth for it. If we're gonna have NIL money and all these kids being Instagram famous and having this level of attention and access to complete strangers around the world, then we need to prepare them the best we can. We need, if we're gonna go that way, we have to do it right. The world's in a big hurry right now. If we don't take a second to prepare ourselves properly, the consequences in terms of just how we set the culture going forward could be toxic. And it already is in so many ways. Like you said, there is a dark side to social media. So, having kids go to classes, having parents and coaches talk to, their athletes about this, that being a focus, we have to understand that there's going to be cameras around now for top talent in basketball, if we're talking basketball specifically. I think putting the best team you can together around these kids so they can just continue to focus on the game and the purity of the game and not everything else. Just continue to try to build out more and more helping hands to help these young athletes build build out their portfolios, but at the same time maintaining like a certain level, being a kid and being, you know, just having fun playing basketball. Because that's what it's about, man, just going out there and having fun.